This is exactly what needed to happen for the Toronto Raptors, because this team took a major swing at this year's trade deadline, bringing in Brandon Ingram, where Masai Ujiri, the Raptors front office, everyone signaled to the NBA that they are trying to be competitive and build around Scottie Barnes for this next season. And frankly, the top half of this roster is very exciting. You have Scottie Barnes, you have Brandon Ingram, you have RJ Barrett, you have Immanuel Quickley, Jakob Poeltl, Gradey Dick, so many guys that have been effective out there on the basketball court and proven themselves in the NBA. But the real question, and one thing that plagued the Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet era of Toronto Raptors basketball, was the bench depth. Would this team have enough guys out there off the bench to be effective out there in these games? And the Toronto Raptors, they've spent multiple seasons down close to the lottery, tanking away the end of the years, where they've had opportunities to develop young pieces, young players at the back half of these seasons, and nothing came to fruition. You had Malachi Flynn and Kevin Birch doing those pick and rolls in 2021, and we saw nothing come from Malachi Flynn. You had Jamias Ramsey and DJ Carton last season trying to cook some things up, and nothing really came together in terms of some functional pieces that are crucial to the future of this team. Well, that all has changed in the back half of this year. Frankly, there are some guys just showing that they can be legitimate bench mob-esque players for the Toronto Raptors moving forward in the future. And we're jumping straight into it, because a guy I want to shed some light on, I gave him some props, give him some praise in the most recent sort of post-game reaction. But Jonathan Mobo, this man has really been strong, especially the last month or so, but filling up the stat sheet, being effective out there at the forward position. And yes, it's come at the cost. His development has come at the cost of Chris Boucher's minutes, which is a tough decision Masai Ujiri has had to have in these games. But honestly, as much as I hate seeing Chris Boucher on the bench, and apparently it won't affect his free agency status, so I hope Chris Boucher gets a contract with us or somewhere else. But Jonathan Mobo's development has been phenomenal to witness. If we're looking at in tonight's game, Jonathan Mobo against the Charlotte Hornets, yes, not the greatest of competition, but put in 17 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists, 3 steals. As a rookie, as a second-round drafted rookie, putting up a triple-double is what as encouraging as it gets. As encouraging as it gets, putting up a triple-double for Jonathan Mobo being a young piece. Yes, sure, there were a few turnovers, sure it was this, but I've been saying it. His vision, out there is that he's not point forward, but a guy that's, in that forward spot, can be in that mid-post area and make these passes, make these great reads. He is not, even though his finishing around the basket can be a bit raw at times, he takes these egregious floaters that are a bit messy. Of course, there are some turnovers, there are different things, but his all-around game is absolutely legit. And I don't care if this game, because again, we just slapped around the Charlotte Hornets 126-96, but I don't care if this is against the Hornets of G League squad. If you're at the NBA level, and you're putting in a triple-double in one of these games, that is a very, very positive indicator in terms of what you could develop into, what you can show into. And it's not just that. Defensively, he is putting on a clinic there as well, playing with a ton of energy. You're rebounding just at that forward spot. And I know the comparisons to Draymond Green have been brought up in the past. And of course, do I have the expectations of him living up to a guy that's probably going to be in the Hall of Fame, a multi-time All-Star, a guy that, is at that level? No, that's unrealistic expectations. But if you can have that style of game and have that style of impact and improve your shooting and improve in all of those areas, for a guy that was drafted in the second round, I know people wanted Filipowski. I know people were frustrated by the nepotism of Jonathan Mobo and Scottie Barnes and all that. This is looking like the correct pick, and it's looking like a pick that could pay dividends out there in the future as he continues to develop, as he continues to improve. And the back half of the season, as saddening as it sometimes is to watch these games and, face off against random competition, the Raptors just not fielding the best sort of performances, the best games. Having Mobo, having Shed, having Battle, having all of these guys get actual reps, get actual run down the stretch of the season, it is very, very encouraging because they are developing legitimate rotation pieces out there moving forward to the future. So, very, very pleased about what is happening now with Jonathan Mobo. And one guy that has been very solid for the Raptors this season, but hasn't gotten as much limelight because the stats haven't been as flashy, is Jared Roden. Because, again, tonight's game had one of his best games in his NBA career. Jared Roden, coming off the bench for this team, had 8 of 12 shooting, 3 of 5 from the three-point line, had 23 points, 7 boards, 4 assists, and just looked very, very polished out there on the basketball court. Looked very comfortable, looked very confident out there as a wing scorer. And of course, he was one of the best scorers for the Raptors down to 5 out there in the G League last season. He is a bona fide bucket getter, can be effective out there on the wing presence, is a sneaky good athlete. Jared Roden hasn't been talked about a lot, but I really, really like the impact that he sort of plays with. And him, AJ Lawson, these guys, there are some decisions that the Raptors are going to have to make. You're going into next season about who's going to make those final roster spots. I'm sure there'll be a bunch of moves and a bunch of changes with these types of guys, but they have legitimate decisions. They're the back half of the roster, your Freddie Gillespies or whatever. It's these types of players. They're like, okay, they're nice guys to have around, and then they aren't going to be super long-term pieces. There are a lot of guys on this Raptors team that, frankly, I've been encouraged by in terms of being a potential long-term piece. I mean, AJ Lawson sets some big games, 14 points for him tonight, getting a Canadian, knocking down some 3-point shots. Orlando Robinson out there in the starting lineup in this game, 9 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, proving that, of course, we'll see what we actually end up getting in the NBA draft. We'll see what the roster is looking like. Of course, Jakob Poeltl is going to be the starting center, but as a backup, as a third stringer, Orlando Robinson is looking like a very, very quality player for the Toronto Raptors, right? You have all these guys. Even Cole Swider, I thought tonight had a solid game, even though he didn't take too many shots. Knocked down a couple threes, was a plus 29 in this one, played with a lot of energy, poise. He is looking for those minutes. That's great to see. Jamison Battle would like to see him knock down a few more shots, but again, he's always doing Jamison Battle stuff out there on the basketball court. The Raptors have a lot of pieces, a lot of guys that they're developing the right way, and it's very, very encouraging for this team moving to next season because the top half of the roster is looking very positive, but you need to have a well-rounded team. You have young guys that can prove that, even, of course, not necessarily being starters, but playing 20 minutes a night, 15 minutes a game, they won't sell you the game. That's what the Raptors need with Brandon Ingram, Scottie Barnes, this whole lineup. And we've seen the injuries that the Raptors have had to deal with, have had to navigate through over the course of the season, whether it's to Scottie, whether it's to RJ, whether it's to Immanuel Quickley. And that's a reality that the Raptors are probably going to deal with out there in the future. So, basically, this is something you need to have depth. You need to have quality depth out there on your roster, and these reps are oh so crucial for the young guys out here on this team. So that's all great to see, but of course, the Raptors did win this one, and some people are only watching these games exclusively for the Tankathon standings, the Tankathon race. We are mathematically incapable of catching the Brooklyn Nets, so that is that. But the San Antonio Spurs are playing the Golden State Warriors here right now. It was tied when I last looked, but the Spurs win, they're cooked, but in terms of potentially catching us, there still is a chance that they end up catching us down the stretch. So we'll see if that ends up being the case. We'll keep you locked out there on that front. And one final thing out there in this vid, I love Brandon Ingram, man. Him and Jamal Shead, they had a little bet going. Of course, Jamal Shead played for Houston last year, was the star player out there on that squad. Brandon Ingram is a Duke guy, and they faced off out there in the NCAA tournament, and Houston got the best of Duke, and then you see Brandon Ingram having to wear a Houston jersey out there at this point. So, fun jokes there. Brandon Ingram, he's just been such a great vibes guy out there for this team, so you love to see every single second of that. But let me know what you guys think about the Toronto Raptors, the young guys developing on this team, and frankly, the direction of this squad, because I'm excited. Like, I am genuinely amped up for next season. Let me know if you are in the comment section down below. You guys best think as far as subscribe to the channel. I'm signing out. Cheers.